In a world teetering on the brink of chaos, the specter of conflict looms ominously. The stage is set for a global showdown unlike any we've seen before. World War III. This isn't just a conflict among nations, it's a collision of superpowers. A dance where the dancers are giants and the floor is the very world we live in. The main players in this high-stakes game are the world's superpowers, each vying for dominance, each ready to defend its interests. But what are these interests? Power, influence, resources, ideology. The stakes are as diverse as they are significant. Economic rivalries have ignited this powder keg as nations compete in a global marketplace where the rules are constantly changing. Some countries are blessed with abundant resources, others with strategic locations, and still others with technological prowess. Each has its own cards to play, and each is playing for keeps. Territorial disputes are another source of friction. Islands, peninsulas, borders, geographical features become geopolitical chess pieces. Some of these disputes simmer quietly, while others are ready to boil over. Each one is a potential flashpoint, a spark that could ignite the tinderbox. Then there are the ideological clashes. Democracy versus autocracy, freedom versus control, individualism versus collectivism. These aren't just abstract concepts. They're lived realities that shape nations and their people. They're the beliefs that we're willing to fight for, and that some are willing to die for. The balance of global stability is like a tightrope walker, precariously poised. The walker must keep moving, must keep balancing, or risk a catastrophic fall. The world is that walker, and the rope is growing more and more unstable. As economic rivalries intensify, territorial disputes simmer, and ideological clashes deepen. The fragile balance of global stability hangs in the balance. The stage is set, the actors are in place, and the curtain is about to rise on a drama that will shape the course of human history. The only question that remains is, are we ready for the final act? The spark that ignites the tinderbox of international tensions may come from any number of flashpoints. The world we live in is a complex tapestry of political, economic, and ideological threads, each one fraught with potential for conflict. Let's take a closer look. Imagine a border skirmish in a disputed region. These areas are often tinderboxes with historical grudges and territorial ambitions keeping the flames of conflict alive. A single misstep, a stray bullet, or a misunderstood order could be all it takes to ignite a full-scale war. Then consider the realm of cyberspace, a new battlefield in the 21st century. Cyber attacks can cripple economies, disrupt governments, and sow chaos. In a world increasingly reliant on digital infrastructure, these invisible assaults have the potential to trigger real-world conflicts. And let's not forget the high-stakes game of military maneuvers. These displays of might and strategy are often fraught with tension. One wrong move, one misinterpreted signal, and the delicate dance of deterrence could quickly spiral into a deadly confrontation. But these are just the sparks. The fuel for this fire lies in the deeper, more enduring issues that divide nations and peoples. The roots of this conflict run deep, fueled by decades of distrust, resentment, and ambition. Economic rivalries between nations have simmered for years, with each power seeking to secure its share of the world's wealth. Ideological differences, too, have driven a wedge between nations, with clashing visions of governance and human rights. And then there's ambition, the unquenchable thirst for power and influence. For some nations, the prospect of dominating the global stage is too enticing to resist, even if it means plunging the world into war. So, as we stand on the brink of World War III, it's important to remember, this isn't just about the spark. It's about the tinderbox itself, a world riddled with conflict and division, ready to burst into flames at a moment's notice. And at the heart of it all are the deep-seated issues of distrust, resentment, and ambition that have brought us to this precipice. The seeds of World War III were sown long ago, as rivalries between the great powers intensified and the post-Cold War order began to fray. The conclusion of the Cold War in the late 20th century left a power vacuum that different nations scrambled to fill. The resulting competition set the stage for a global tug-of-war that has only grown more fraught with time. This tension has been further amplified by a resurgence of nationalism and the rise of authoritarian leaders. In various corners of the globe, leaders have begun to reject the principles of liberal democracy, instead favoring more autocratic models of governance. This shift towards authoritarianism has only served to exacerbate international tensions as nations with opposing ideologies find themselves increasingly at odds. Moreover, these leaders have often used nationalism to consolidate their power. By stoking the flames of national pride and identity, they have fostered an us versus them mentality that can easily escalate into conflict. This is particularly true when these nationalistic sentiments intersect with territorial disputes or economic rivalries. And then, there's the issue of resources. In a world with a growing population but finite resources, competition for these vital commodities is inevitable. Whether it's oil, water, or rare earth elements, the scramble for resources has the potential to ignite a global conflict. Finally, there's the role of technology. Advances in cyber warfare, artificial intelligence, and other forms of high-tech weaponry have created a new battlefield, one where the lines between combatant and civilian, war and peace are blurred. This new era of warfare brings with it a host of ethical and strategic challenges that the world is still grappling with. In sum, the world has become a pressure cooker, with various forces pushing against each other, each adding to the tension. The seeds of World War III have been sown, and the sprouts are taking root. The question now is not if these seeds will bloom into a full-blown conflict, but when, making the prospect of conflict increasingly likely. The question is not if World War III will erupt, but when and who will be drawn into its deadly embrace. As we delve into the potential alliances and divisions among global powers, it's clear that the fault lines of conflict are not confined to any one region. They crisscross the globe, dividing nations into opposing camps and alliances. The world, as we know it, is a chessboard, with superpowers positioning their pieces, ready for a game that could decide the fate of humanity. At the forefront of the established powers, we find the United States and its allies in NATO. These nations are steadfast in their resolve to defend the liberal democratic order. Their shared values and mutual defense pact serve as a bulwark against any encroachments from authoritarian regimes. But just as adamant are the challengers to the status quo. China and Russia, emboldened by their growing economic and military might, seek to reshape the world order in their own image. Their ambitions are not covert, but rather a proclamation of their intent to challenge the dominance of the West. The fault lines are not limited to these superpowers. They extend to a multitude of regional powers, each with its own alliances, ambitions, and anxieties. Middle Eastern nations caught in the crossfire of regional rivalries, Asian countries navigating the power dynamics of a resurgent China, and Eastern European states living in the shadow of a resurgent Russia. All these nations and more are part of this intricate web of alliances and conflicts. In the end, the fault lines of World War III are as complex as they are dangerous. They reflect not just military alliances and economic rivalries, but also deep-seated historical resentments, ideological differences, and national ambitions. As we stand on the brink of what could be the most devastating conflict in human history, one thing is clear: the stakes could not be higher. The fault lines of conflict crisscross the globe, dividing nations into opposing camps and alliances. On the other side lurk the challengers to the status quo, China and Russia, emboldened by their growing economic and military might, seeking to reshape the world order in their own image. China, the world's most populous nation, has been steadily amassing power and influence, propelled by its rapid economic growth and technological advancements. It has been assertive in its territorial claims, causing friction with neighboring countries and straining international relations. Its ambitious Belt and Road Initiative, aimed at creating a vast network of land and sea routes connecting Asia with Europe and Africa, is seen as a clear indication of China's global aspirations. Russia, on the other hand, has been flexing its military muscle, bolstering its presence in geopolitical hotspots, from Syria to Ukraine. There's a resurgence of its Cold War-era influence, as it seeks to re-establish itself as a formidable global power. The Kremlin's sophisticated cyber warfare capabilities have become a significant concern, with allegations of election meddling and disinformation campaigns causing widespread apprehension. These challengers are not just defined by their military and economic prowess. They represent a different ideological model, one that challenges the liberal democratic ideals espoused by the West. This ideological divide adds another layer of complexity to the brewing conflict, as it's not just about territory or resources, but about the very values and principles that underpin our global systems. Both China and Russia have been skillful in exploiting divisions within the Western alliance, driving a wedge between the United States and its NATO allies. Their strategy seems to be one of divide and conquer, seeking to undermine the unity of the Western Bloc and isolate their adversaries. As these challengers grow bolder, they are redefining the rules of the game, pushing the boundaries of international law and norms. Their actions are reshaping the geopolitical landscape, creating new alliances and rivalries, and setting the stage for a potential showdown of epic proportions. As the lines between friend and foe blur, the specter of all-out war looms ever larger on the horizon. In the corridors of power, leaders weigh their options, knowing that the stakes could not be higher, for victory in World War III may come at the cost of civilization itself. The potential for a global conflict of this magnitude sends shockwaves through every nation, every city, every home. Imagine, if you will, the world post-World War III. Economies shattered, infrastructures decimated, societies fractured. The world map redrawn, borders blurred, and alliances reshaped. It's a chilling image to conjure, but it's crucial to grasp the gravity of the situation. Decisions made in this moment could alter the course of history. Leaders must grapple with the weight of their choices, the balance between national interest, global stability, and the value of human life. The world watches as chess pieces move on the global stage, each maneuver bringing us closer to or further from the precipice of war. Yet, amidst the looming shadow of conflict, there's also the glimmer of hope. Diplomacy, negotiation, and compromise, though seemingly distant, are not entirely out of reach. The world has faced the brink before and stepped back. Could history repeat itself, or are we poised to plunge into the abyss? In this potential theater of war, technology plays a lead role, its power both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Cyber warfare, autonomous weapons, artificial intelligence, these may be the deciding factors of this impending conflict, the tools that could either save or doom us all. The aftermath of such a conflict is difficult to predict. Will it result in a new world order or the end of order altogether? Will it pave the way for a more peaceful future or plunge us into an era of perpetual conflict? These are the stakes. This is the reality we face as we stand on the threshold of World War III. The countdown to Armageddon has begun. The world holds its breath, praying for peace but preparing for war.